Indeed, India correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us live from Raisina Dialogue. Akshay, what is the latest from Raisina Dialogue this edition, and how are themes of global south and multipolarity being articulated by the leaders?
Well, Global South has become sort of a center stage here as far as the dialogues, the discussion, the deliberations that are happening at Raisina Dialogue amid all of these leaders, policymakers, academicians, journalists coming in from around the world in New Delhi. This year's theme is Sanskaram, that talks about assertiveness, that talks about dialogue, diplomacy, that talks about culture, that talks about traditions, that talks about heritage as well. As other things that make cultures unique, countries unique, and their aspirations unique as well. And if you talk about the latest that's taking place here, the Finland President Alexander Stubb was here along with the External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, who spoke about various issues about geopolitics, about assertiveness of the Global South, about how Global South has taken a center stage, especially after the push that took place at the G20 summit here in New Delhi, and the inclusion of the African Union as one of the member states of the G20 as well. How and why Global South is relevant, why it is important, and how the world is divided into, as it was described by the Finnish president, in three parts, that is Global West, Global East, and Global South. And when talking about a Global South, it was agreed by all the sort of leaders who were present here that, in terms of diversity, in terms of culture, perhaps Global South is one region that is one of the most diverse one of the most culturally rich, one of the most, tolerant cultures as far as, others are concerned. Global South is talked about, the talk is regarding the concerns of the Global South, the issues, and how the world needs to be more empathetic towards the developing countries, so that they can also reach to a certain level of, human development index as well, and other areas of development, including infrastructure.
Right, talking about priorities of the Global South, Akshay, one such sort of long pending priority has been the reform of multilateral institutions, the UNSC in particular, India's rightful place in it. How is that theme being looked at by the leaders?
Well, it's quite essential to look at the reforms in major multilateral forums, especially when we talk about multilateral forums. One of the most important, one of the most central one remains the United Nations. And in the United Nations, there are several bodies, but when it comes to the most powerful one, and the one at the center of the United Nations, is the United Nations Security Council, with 5 permanent member states who hold the veto powers, who essentially hold power to block any kind of resolution that is being passed, or ganging up against other countries who do not have the permanent membership here. That deprives rather a majority of the world from a sort of say in the global affairs, and that perhaps is the reason why we are seeing what we are seeing in the world in terms of brewing conflicts, in terms of erupting of new conflicts, in terms of global order going out of the window, in terms of international laws being violated by the powerful countries, and the entire world remains a sort of hostage to the whims and the fancies of these few permanent countries without representation to a large part of the population in the world, including India, that is the largest population in the world, doesn't have a veto or a permanent seat at the UNSC. These seats were decided way back after the World War II and still remain unchanged, and that is why the disparity remains in terms of decision making, and resulting into a misunderstanding of the majority of the world, that is also making the UNSC as well as the United Nations fail in bringing resolution to many of the conflicts that it was originally planned to undertake. So reforms are required. In fact, now other major countries, including the Finnish president, also echoed the voice for more inclusions in the permanent seats, as well as inclusion of countries like India, who will not only strengthen the body, but also bring a more more diversification to these strong bodies, as well as a voice of peace, right, a voice of sanity in the erupting chaos in the world.
Akshay, thank you for joining us with those updates.